Olá a todos and welcome to another Julia video. In today's video I will be talking about test items. Test items are a modern way of testing in Julia. They are essentially an upgrade to the basic test set. With test items you can run the tests in parallel. You have some isolation of your tests and you can have setup steps. There is also a very nice integration with VSCode, allowing you to see the tests that are running via a graphical interface, and you can click to run the tests. It's really nice. And if you're not using VSCode, like I am not, you can also run the tests via the REPL, which is a pretty new thing that I just found out. Or you can use a TestItem CLI feature that I have on BestieTemplate that you might want to copy. Let's go into the details. So first of all, I'm going to create a new package from scratch. So I'm using BestieTemplate to create this package. You can check my previous video if you want to know more, but I'm essentially running this one command here to create like and subscribe.jl. And if you haven't, by the way, please do like and subscribe this video. It does help a lot. After running this, we can go to VS Code. And here in VS Code, you can see that like and subscribe just has the basic template output from Bestie and a basic runtests.jl with a test set already there. So we want to modify this to use test items, but I'm going to start from scratch, pretending that I have nothing in this repo. So because I'm using VS Code here, I can just say add test item and give a name to my test. So I can say basic tests and use test as I would normally. And just by doing that, I immediately have this play button appear on the left of my test item. And this is the VS Code integration. It's already included in the Julia VS Code plugin extension, however it's called. So if you play this test, you are running it, and you can see the result down here. If I create a new test here, there's another test. And I'm going to test that 1 is larger than 0. Play again. This is completely new. It ran immediately because it's using open process in the background that automatically runs revise if I change stuff. So it's a much better way of testing because you don't have to restart your Julia every time. So using test items just for this reason is already a good idea. But let's look at the other nice features that you have with test items. So first of all, here in VS Code, you can go to the tab testing and you can see the tests that you have and you can decide which ones you want to run. You can just click on them here and the results are going to appear. And you can run them all and you can see them in the output as well. Another thing that you can do is you can run with debug and with coverage. I'm not gonna go into the details of those options, but you can just play around with them. For me, the most relevant part of this is that all these tests are running in parallel. I don't know how many threads, enough to make me happy. Sometimes I want to have setup between them, and I can create that with test items using two options. So I have test snippet, and here I can give a name to setup snippet, and I can create a new function foo that returns 1. And I can also do that with a test module. So a setup module begin, and then I can create a function bar that returns 2. To use these snippets and module in my test items, I can just say setup equals, and then I give a list of all the things that I want to include. So for instance, I want both this snippet and the module. I can just do this. And the difference between the snippet and the module is that the snippet will be run for every test item. So if I go down here and I do the same for this other test, the snippet will be run for both of them, and however many more tests are using that same setup snippet. The module, on the other hand, is going to be run once. If I do have a setup module being used, it's going to be run once. The other difference is that to use the snippet stuff, I can just directly say foo, and that's it. So I can just run the tests and it's working. But to use the bar, the module stuff, so bar, I have to give the setup module name. So here I have to say setup module.bar. And then I can run again. But those are the main differences. So the setup module is, if you have something that's really slow, you're going to want to put in a module because it's going to run only once. But if you have something light, like a basic function that you want to create or some constant values, you can just put them in the setup snippet. You can have many snippets and modules, test snippets and test modules, but they cannot depend on one another. That's a limitation, at least for now, but you can have many more here. I can have a setup snippet 2, for instance, if I want. So these tests, they come with all the basic test functionality, so I can have a test broken, for instance, that's 1 is less than 0. I can have test throws. Please let me know in the comments how I'm mispronouncing throws. I can have a test set, so I can have something like blah x for x equals 1 to 3, and I can test that x squared is equal to x times x. And all of these tests are going to be shown down here. So you can see that 5 tests have passed, 1 is broken, which is the test broken, and the rest is just working normally. This by itself is already pretty cool. So of course you can run the tests from different files. So if I have a different test file, another.jl, I could move this another test here. And if I go to the test tab, you can see that test another.jl is separate now, but I can run all of them as I did before, or just that one. It's pretty cool. I know you're already impressed. Now I'm gonna make you a little more impressed by creating tags for my tests. So I can give a tags argument to my test item, and I can say this is a fast test and it's a basic test, for instance. And here in the left, I can filter the tests. It doesn't show in my zoomed screen, but you can see that I can say add tag. So add fast, and it shows only and another test, which is the only fast test that I have. So I can run all the fast tests, I can run all the basic tests, I can filter by different things here. So this opens up the possibility, for instance, of you having integration tests and unit tests separately, and you run only the unit test in your CI, and if those pass, you can run only the integration test. I haven't done that yet, but that's for another video. And the only thing that's missing here is essentially the missing link between running these things in VS Code and running them normally. So my run tests file is this bare bones example of test items. It has nothing there. It's not using any package. And by the way, if you noticed, I haven't installed anything here. So that means that VS Code is automatically running the necessary things in the background. And the necessary things are TestItemRunner. So let's say I'm running the normal tests now. So I'm opening Julia here now, and I'm entering the package mode and run test. And this should fail. And you can see that it fails because it doesn't know what test snippet is. So what is happening with VS Code that allows it to run my tests? So there is a package that I'm going to add in my test called TestItemRunner. And the TestItemRunner is what's finding these test items and running them, as the name implies. So from TestItemRunner, I have a macro call at run package tests, and I can say verbose equals true or false. And the verbose equals true mode shows everything in details, and it's pretty much the same summary as I had before. When I run this, I can also add a filter. With this filter argument, you can do essentially the same thing that's happening here with the tags and also the file name. You can give a function to filter, which is a function that receives one argument, the test item, and does something with the test item, and you could do something like TestItem.filename contains another, and it runs only the test items that matches the filter. Of course, this is a filter per test item. The test item carries all the information that's relevant to it. So if I want to just see what's inside the test item, I can run the print command. So let's actually run print test item, and then just give a true back so all of them are selected. And you can see here what's inside the test item. So it has a file name, it has the name of the test item, so this part here, and it has the tags, which are a list of symbols. So you can do something with that information, like we just had for the fast test. So if fast is in the test item tags, I'm going to select that test. So it's filtered by tags now. That's pretty cool. Okay, but that still doesn't solve our main issue, which was how do I run the tests from run tests? I still have the same issue. So what I need to do is I need to add this TestItemRunner, and I need to run package tests, and maybe I want to use verbose equals true, maybe not. That still not available, but I could remove them all and create a separate file for test main.jl, whatever it's called. And inside my run tests, I then have nothing, only TestItemRunner and run package tests, and that's it. That runs all the tests. So now it should work. And it works. As expected, it just finds the test and runs them. So this is the interesting things about the TestItemRunner. The test items will be searched in the whole package. So I could, in principle, just define the test items inside my main test. However, I would go back to the issue that I had before, which is I don't have test item. I don't have this macro defined anywhere because I don't have the main package that defines these macros. So I have the option here to actually use in my main package test items. So of course I would need to install test items in the main package. That's an option that you have if you want to have your tests inside your source. This is not something that I do, so I don't like that option, so I would just remove this from here. I like them in the test folder, and I do prefer to have test items installed only in the test. So right now you can see that my runtests.jl has no tests. It is depending on TestItemRunner or finding all the tests, and that's fine. TestItemRunner will do that, but you might also want to include all the test files that you have. So if you include the test files that you have, you will parse these files and Julia will verify that they are working normally. Because I have TestItemRunner here, TestItemRunner re-exports the test items macros. So I actually don't need to add test item to my repo. So if you check my test environment, it only has TestItemRunner. And if I run the test, it works. So that's the basic of TestItemRunner. You could stop here now, and if you want, you can check their website. So here in the website, julia-testitems.org. This, I don't know how old this website is. I think it's a few weeks old because I hadn't seen it before, and it looks pretty nice. It is a really nice improvement from the older version. So it's the best moment to create a video about it. Thank you. So you can just follow along and see what else is around. But I will talk about some things that are not here, so you can keep watching. So as I mentioned in the beginning, I don't really use VS Code a lot anymore. The test integration is really nice, but it's not enough to make me move to VS Code again, because I did find alternatives that I will show you now. So I'm here in the terminal, which is where I normally work, and I have a normal situation for me. I have a split screen. In one side, I have my normal editor, which is Vim, and on the right I have what we had on VS Code, the terminal with the current package. So if I run the test from here, it should work the same as it was working from the VS Code terminal. Okay, what options do I have for running my test if I don't want to actually run the test every time? So the basic option that I have is to say I'm going to activate the test environment. I'm going to use the TestItemRunner myself directly. And then I'm going to run package tests verbose equals true directly. And of course, from here, I'm going to run only the test that I actually want to run. Maybe I'm working on this basic test. Maybe I'm working on a specific file. Maybe I want to run and filter per tags. The most important thing is that from the REPL, you can filter the tests and run only what you need. So first of all, I'm going to say, I'm going to check the name of the test. And if it has basic on it, I'm running it. Right? So that's it. I'm running only the basic tests that I have here. So this is already an option for me if I want to recreate my experience with VS Code. But I do have something extra that I can do, which comes from Revise. So Revise is already included in my REPL. VS Code automatically includes it as well, but Revise is being included by my Julia startup. If you haven't, you can just say using Revise before you start working. Most importantly, Revise has a function called entr. Entr, I don't know how you pronounce this. So Revise.entr comes from this bash command here, from this entr project. So it's something with already some years that's available in the terminal. I don't know if it's available for everybody in their distribution, but at least for me it is. So I can just check what entr does. And the cool thing about it is that it runs something whenever something else changes. So you say, please keep a watch on this file, and if that file changes, run this function, run this test, for instance. So you could use it in the terminal to automatically recompile something and run the tests. We are going to run entr, giving the name of the file that we are interested in keeping an eye on. So I'm working on a new test, so I'm going to watch the test called test.main.jl. And I also can give the modules that I'm interested in keeping a watch on, in this case, the like and subscribe module. I just realized I haven't used like and subscribe yet here, so it's going to error, but bear with me for now. Inside this terminal, I can actually run the things that I want. So I can run the test, the basic test as I had before. You can see here I just used and subscribe, and it ran the tests in main, the basic test, and I can just modify that or add a new test. Test 1 plus 2 equals 3. I'm gonna get them all. We're gonna test all the numbers. Yeah, they're working. That's how I normally do my testing if I'm like developing a long test, or if I'm developing and fixing and developing and fixing, and I want the test to keep running automatically in the background. It saves me a couple of seconds every time I'm running a test, which might not be a lot or might be really relevant for you. It's iteration speed, so it's important. So one thing that you might want to do in your tests is to use a try-catch block here, just to make sure that things don't break in unexpected ways, because then this Revise.entr will stop working. So for instance, I could forget to close my equal, but the tests keep running and I can just, oh, okay, yeah, I forgot that, and it's fixed now. Okay, so just a quick tip for you, wrap the run package test in a try-catch block. Finally, the other thing that I'm doing a lot lately, in some projects at least, is using some kind of AI agent. And there is an option to run the tests via that AI agent. And for that, I'm using the julia-mcp. Julia-mcp essentially gives you 3 functions in your AI agent. The julia-eval being the main one for us. It's going to evaluate some code, and then you give the environment path. And essentially what you're doing is sending the run package test code via the AI agent. So I already have it set up here, so you can see in the MCPs that I have Julia connected available. And if I see the tools, I see julia-eval right there. You have useful information. And you normally want to give a little bit of context to your AI agent about how to use the julia-mcp. And I do recommend that you put that in an agents.md file or similar. And for us, we're going to write them down explicitly. So this is what I wrote down for now. I hope this works. I'm saying use the julia-mcp to run the tests. Each code should start with using TestItemRunner. So this is something that you would do on your own terminal, so you have to do it here as well. And then the next time you run something should be the @runPackageTest with a specific filter. I'm giving a little bit more information about the specific filter that I want to run because there is no context for this new agent. Normally, you want to write something in the agents.md to give some examples of how to use the run package test. So you can see here that he picked it up. So it's calling julia-eval using TestItemRunner, then run package test with the specific filter. And the one important part here that it's informed to the agent is that the env path should be the absolute path to the test. Let's run and see if it works. It works. It gave the information that all tests pass, and now I can tell it to do something relevant with those tests and run the test to make sure they keep working. So I'm asking this AI agent to implement a Bhaskara function. So this is the, how do you call this, a quadratic equation solution, receiving ABC, and I really don't care about the details. I just want to see if the agent will work. First of all, it's modifying the source file, creating the Bhaskara function. That's a yes for me. You can see the result on the left. The roots equal Bhaskara function was created. Now it's trying to create new tests, and that's still just normal agent usage, and you can say yes. You can see the new tests have been created, and then it's trying to run the tests, and it's filtering by the Bhaskara name. So one interesting thing, it complained there is a world age issue. It needs to restart the Julia session so the package is loaded fresh. I don't know exactly why that happened, where it happened, but I'm happy to say yes, use the Julia restart. Now it's running the test again. And you can see that it found out that, oh, actually, I haven't exported this function. It ran the test and it failed. I'm allowing it to add the export, run the tests again, and now it passed and it works, and that's it. So that's how it works with the AI agent. Using the julia-mcp, you have the benefit of running the tests via the test item existing connection much faster. It's a game changer if you're using AI agents. You should be using TestItem or some other way to run the test. Of course, you have other options as well. You have other MCP options. This is one option. You should be doing something like this to benefit from warm starting your tests. So I want to showcase a few other things that I'm not really using as much because the new things are amazing and they solve almost everything, but they are still sometimes used. So first of all, before the julia-mcp or before using the terminal interactively, I would just use the TestItems CLI, which is a script essentially in the runtests file that parses the input and decides which filter to call. I can add this feature to an existing package using BestieTemplate with BestieTemplate.addFeature, TestItems CLI. And this will create a runtests file for me. It will also create other things, so you have to review what you're doing. But for now, let's just focus on the runtests file. And the runtests file is huge. There's a lot of things here. You probably don't want all of this if you're not heavily invested in using TestItems. You have a full solution for parsing command line arguments to run the tests. So what I can do here is just run the runtests.jl file, and from here I can add some arguments like -help to show all the options that I have, or I can just directly run -name Bhaskara, which is the same as running run package tests, filter equals contains name Bhaskara, etc., etc. It's pretty much the same idea. Of course, this loses one of the nice aspects of the TestItems, which is you don't have the terminal, the julia-REPL anymore, so you lost the iteration speed, which is one of the reasons I'm not using this anymore. You have better ways of running the tests. But if you're running a single execution, this might be useful. And before using the julia-mcp, this was a solution for the AI agent. So the AI agent could use this directly instead of using the MCP. Using the MCP is better now. And run just the specific test that it was trying to develop. The alternative of using julia-mcp is much better now, so possibly the TestItem CLI will get deprecated soon. So the other reason that the TestItem CLI might be deprecated soon is that the TestItems developers, they are also developing something called TestItemREPL. So the TestItemREPL creates a new REPL mode. So if you press this key here, the close parenthesis key, so I'm holding Shift and pressing 0, which is the close parenthesis, I enter the test mode. And the test mode essentially lets me run the tests. I'm gonna help. Essentially lets me run the tests, filtering them like I was doing with the test item directly. And I can just say run dash. Is there a name here? I don't see a way to run the names. So I can just say run Bhaskara. I actually cannot say run Bhaskara because I think I have to be a bit more specific in this case. But I can check the full name of the Bhaskara test, which is Bhaskara Basic. It still doesn't work. I'm not sure if you can filter by test name. I hope someone in the comments let me know. But you could filter by other things. For instance, the tags like we had before. You don't use the symbol notation, you just give the full name -- tags equals fast, and it works. It runs the test. Is there a way to make it verbose here? I don't know. I learned about this like an hour ago, so it's pretty new. It's actually not released yet, so you have to keep an eye to see if it's going to be released soon or not. I think it's a few weeks old, maybe a few months old, so you have to install yourself. So how do you install it if you want to use? A recommendation, either create a global environment or activate nothing, and then it's your global environment, or a shared global environment like TestItem tools, and then you can add the package there. And you have to add this full URL here. You can copy from the julia-testitems.org here, julia-testitems-REPL. If you check the guide REPL, there is a warning that this is still pre-release, but you can already add it here. Just one quick note, this is missing a letter here. It should be TestItems. There are open pull requests to fix this already, so don't worry about it. Maybe by the time you are watching this video, TestItemREPL is already available, so you don't have to actually do this. But for now, you would need to add the TestItemREPLs via the URL. So to finalize, I will just quickly mention some of the things that I'm not talking about here, that I haven't really tested and I don't know how relevant they are for us. In addition to having the TestItems.jl package and the VSCode extension and the TestItemRunner and the REPL, there is also something called the TestItem workflow. I haven't used it. I haven't really used the TestItem specifically in my workflow. As I mentioned in the beginning, one really nice feature is that now it should be possible for us to have multiple levels of testing. So if you have a really large package that takes a few hours to test, you might want to run only the fast tests first, and then if those pass, you go to the hardcore tests. Or maybe in your pull request, if the pull request is really simple, you just run the basic test, otherwise you run the full test suite. The current workflows in GitHub, they don't address that at all because they are using run tests normally, let's say. So that's not a direct option yet. But of course, it should be possible for you to manually modify the workflow and make it work. Maybe we won't have to do that because TestItem workflow already does it for us. But to be honest, by looking at it right now, it's a bit too complicated to see what is actually happening there. So I'm not suggesting that you do or do not use it. I'm suggesting that you check for yourself if that's a good idea. If you know more about the workflow, please let me know in the comments. Maybe in the future, I will update BestieTemplate to use the workflows directly, or at least to give the options to use the workflow. There is already an option in the BestieTemplate to use the TestItem. You saw the TestItem CLI, but there is also the TestItem basic version. If you go through the normal usage of Bestie with the generate, seeing all the questions, you can select which kind of testing strategy you want. And I highly recommend TestItems right now it's one of the nicest ways to test. I hope this is a useful video for you. For me, TestItem was a game changer. It made our development of Tulipa much faster. It also helped with the AI agent using the julia-mcp, which I'm also really grateful for people developing that. If this video was useful for you and you want more like that, please like and subscribe. I'm really grateful for having you as an audience, and I hope you keep watching these videos. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.